10 real Python interview questions from a Quest2Offer mock. Pause on each one, think how you'd answer, then I'll show you how. Let's go. What's the GL, and when do you reach for threads versus multiprocessing? The GIL is a lock in CPython that lets only one thread run Python bytecode at a time, so threads can't run CPU-bound work in true parallel. Use threading for I/O-bound work, network calls disk, where threads release the GIL while waiting. Use multiprocessing for CPU-bound work, since separate processes sidestep the lock entirely. Though Python 3.13's optional free-threaded build, PEP 703, now removes the GIL and is shifting this trade-off. What's the difference between mutable and immutable types, say a list versus a tuple? A mutable object can change in place after creation. An immutable one can't. Lists are mutable, so you can append or reassign elements. Tuples are immutable, so they're fixed once built. That matters in practice. Dict keys and set members need a stable hash. A tuple qualifies, but a list or even a tuple containing one doesn't. Immutability also makes objects safe to share across threads or cache. Explain generators and the yield keyword and why lazy evaluation matters. A generator is a function that uses yield to produce values one at a time, pausing its state between calls instead of building a full list. That's lazy evaluation. Values are computed only when you ask for them. The win is memory. You can stream a 1,000,000-row file or an infinite sequence using near-constant memory. You trade random access for that. Generators are single-pass and forward-only. What are decorators and why would you use one? A decorator is a function that takes another function and returns a wrapped version, adding behavior without touching the original code. The decorator syntax is just sugar for func. Decorator, func. You use them to factor out cross-cutting concerns, logging, timing, caching, auth checks, retries in one reusable place. Use functools.wraps inside so the wrapper keeps the original's name and docstring. What do args and kwargs do in a function signature? Args collects extra positional arguments into a tuple. Kwargs collects extra keyword arguments into a dict. They let a function accept a variable number of inputs. The classic use is forwarding. A wrapper takes args, kwargs, and passes them straight through to the function it wraps so it works for any signature. At the call site, the same stars unpack a sequence or dict back into arguments. Quick pause. These are real questions from Quest2Offer's AI mock interview. Pick your target role and level, answer out loud or in writing, and get a breakdown of exactly where you'd get cut. It's free to try at quest2offer.ai. Now, back to the questions. What's the mutable default argument gotcha? Default arguments are evaluated once at function definition, not on each call. So if you write def fx item 0, every call that omits items shares the same list and mutations leak across calls. The fix is to default to none and create a fresh list inside. If items is none items nakoi. It's a top source of subtle bugs and a favorite interview trap. Shallow copy versus deep copy. What's the difference? A shallow copy builds a new outer object but reuses references to the nested objects inside. A deep copy recursively copies everything, so the new object shares nothing with the original. With a list of lists, copy.copy gives you a new outer list whose inner lists are still shared. Mutate one and both change. Copy.deepcopy makes them fully independent at higher cost. List comprehension versus map and filter. Which do you prefer and why? I prefer comprehensions in idiomatic Python. fx for x in x's if cond reads clearly and handles both transform and filter in one expression. Map and filter return lazy iterators and can be marginally faster when you pass an existing function with no lambda, but chaining map with a lambda is usually less readable than a comprehension. For pure laziness over huge data, a generator expression beats both. What does a context manager do, and how does with work? A context manager guarantees setup and teardown around a block, most commonly acquiring and releasing a resource. The with statement calls enters on entry and exit on exit, and exit runs even if the block raises. That's why with OpenPath asf always closes the file. You build your own by defining those dunder methods, or more simply, with a context_lib.context manager around a generator. How does Python manage memory? ZPython's primary mechanism is reference counting. Each object tracks how many references point to it, and it's freed the instant that count hits 0. Reference counting alone can't reclaim reference cycles, so a generational garbage collector runs periodically to find and collect those. Memory is managed by the interpreter. You don't free objects manually. You influence it indirectly, dropping references using weakref or breaking cycles. That's all 10. How many did you get? Tell me in the comments, and like, subscribe, and try a real mock interview at Quest2Offer.ai. Good luck out there.